Okay, so thank you, Ilan. This is a paper with Vlad Nora from Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan. And I think that Vlad is with us. Are you, Vlad? Okay, maybe he has a problem there, but I'll start speaking, okay? And let me say the basic premise of this paper. The basic premise is we are swayed by friends, colleagues, lifestyle bloggers, friends on social networks, online social networks. We are swayed by these people, by these factors in our own behavior, okay? The more people take a certain action, the more we are inclined to do it as well. It's true that not always this is the case, but very often this is the case. We call it conformity. We call it peer effect. There are lots of literature on peer effect in economics that try to explain it. I'm going to give some examples, but it doesn't have to be something psychological. It can be something technical, for instance, or almost technical. If you think about self-isolation, then clearly, if all your friends self-isolate themselves, the chances that you will self-isolate yourself as well is extremely high, because you don't have anyone to see, right? They are not going to accept you. But if all your friends are going to announce that they are not self-isolating, then you have lots of reasons to do the same thing, okay? And this is the basic. And the story that I'm going to tell is that there is, in many cases like this, especially I'm going to refer more to online social network, there is some planner that want to exploit these peer effects, okay? This planner wants to induce all these agents to take a certain action. For instance, self-isolation. And he wants to do it by utilizing this social influence or peer effect. And the question is, how should he be doing it? Okay? In particular, who should be induced more prominently? Who should be induced less? What is going to be the structure of this inducement mechanism? We are going to answer this question. And then we are going to introduce another question, which is harder to answer, but we're going to answer it at least to a certain degree, which is going to be, what sort of networks are more accommodative for principles like these, okay, that want to utilize or exploit social influence for their own benefits, okay? So there's going to be a question about the structure of the network that make it easy for a principle to induce people to do a certain action that he wants them to do. What sort of other action? Could be voting, right? And we know that voting, at least in the 2016 election, candidates, and especially one candidate, exploited networks very effectively in order to get people to vote for him, okay? It could be a marketing strategy to get people to buy a certain product through their network by getting other people, by getting their friends to buy the product. This is a nice evidence that I found about the prevalence of peer effect. They are more pronounced, mostly pronounced in travel. People imitate very often the travel decisions of other people, hotels, restaurants, flights, and so forth. Financial is less, retail, and healthcare. Okay? And then I'm going to refer specifically to the implication that our analysis will have to Facebook and Twitter, online network, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And there's going to be some distinction between Facebook and Twitter. Okay? You think about, there is a distinct difference between Facebook and Twitter in terms of the network, and we're going to have something to say about this as well. Okay. So what is the story? The story is that there are people connected through a network, and I'm going to start with undirected networks. Okay. As I said, the more people are taking this, more of your friends are taking a certain action, you want to take it as well. There might be a certain cost to take this action. And beyond the cost on the social utility, there is also an opportunity for the principal to bribe you to take the action. Now, bribing, it doesn't have to be that he transfers you money or transfers you good or transfer you benefit. Bribing could be interpreted as investing in advertising campaign, okay? And the idea is the more he is going to advertise and appeal his advertising and specify and customize his advertising to one player, one agent, the more this agent is going to take an action. Okay, the more likely that this person is going to take the action. And the question is suppose that he wants to get it done, namely get everybody do the action, and he wants to minimize his campaign spending. How should he go about doing it? Okay, so how intensively should the principal target each individual in a social network? This is one question. And secondly, which networks are more susceptible to develop social influence? Okay? Hi, Israel. Okay? So this paper is actually in the midpoint between three types of literature. I would say three types of literature in economics / game theory / computer science. One is a literature of social network. Okay, the other one is literature on viral marketing in networks, which is primarily a literature in computer science, and I'll refer to this very soon. And the last one is the literature on contract, which I've been involved with in several years. And there is a feature here that also applies to in the paper that I have with Marina Halak and Ilan Kremer. Okay, so let's go directly to the model. Okay. The model is relatively simple. Here is a story. You have a network. We start with a network, again, graph, which means nodes and arcs, okay? Undirected graph, non-directed graph. And I'm going to denote Gij equal 1 when there is a link between I and j, and Gij equals 0 when there is no link, okay? Now each player has to decide whether he takes the action or not, okay? Let's think about voting, okay? Taking the action means choosing xi equal 1, not taking the action is xi equals 0. And now I specify the utility function for each player, depending on the vector of decisions, 0, 1, of agents, and on the graph. And again, the graph is relevant because the more of your friends do the action, the more you want to do it as well. Okay? So now let me explain this utility function. There are two elements which are trivial. This is the cost of taking the action, and it doesn't have to be positive. It could be negative. Okay? It could be either positive or negative. There are actions that you want to do, and then the cost is positive, or those that you don't want to do, the cost is negative. This is the transfer that is given to you by the principal, conditional on you taking the action. Okay? And again, this doesn't have to be constrained to either positive or negative. It could have any sign. Now, the more delicate thing is this part of this utility function, which I call the social influence. So what is a social influence? The social influence looks at the number of friends. First of all your friends that take the action, okay? So Gij is going to be 1 whenever you are linked to J, you are I, okay? And this is going to be 1 if and only if you are linked to J, and J does take the action, right? So this is the number of people amongst your friends that took the action. But this is not everything. There is another thing here, which we call the dilution effect, okay? Because it does matter. Suppose that you have only 1 friend, and this friend takes the action. It's gonna be different, this 1 friend taking the action, if you have 100 friends. This friend is taking the action, but the other 99 friends don't take the action, okay? So you have to respond also to dilute the effect of the number of people who take the action by the number of links. And I'm going to give some example about how this dilution function is going to look, okay?
Eyal,
yes.
Eyal, sorry, 2 questions. Number 1, what the principal pays, which is this Ti, depends on Xi, because so it's conditional on the action, which is quite unusual. Usually you get a transfer and then you decide what to do. I think so.
No.
Okay.
Your transfer is conditional on what you're doing. Okay?
So you do that and you pay that. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Question number 2. Di is just okay. Sorry, I got it. Di is a summation of Gij over J. Is that correct?
Gi
is summation Gij over J.
No, it's just 0 for each Gij is 0 or 1.
Right. So the number of friends is a summation of Gij.
That's the summation you see here. Yes, that's what I have here.
No.
Sum over
Di.
J. This is.
I'm asking about Di. The definition of Di.
Sorry, Di is the number of friends that I has.
I'm asking, is that the same as summation Gij?
Yes.
Yes. The sum over J.
Yes.
It's a summation of Gij, yes.
So you have this summation appearing twice. Let's make it clear.
Yeah, but I have a simpler notation for this, which is Di. Okay. Ci is the cost. Okay.
אייל?
Yes.
אפשר גם שאלה על השקף הקודם?
Yes.
TI, ה-external incentive, יכול להיות גם תלוי ב-DI?
סליחה?
TI, the external incentive, can it also depend on the number of friends you have?
Yes, of course, it will. Okay,
Eyal,
it will.
Eyal, another question.
But it's not going to depend. It's not going to depend on what other people are doing. So I'm contracting directly with you. I'm saying if you do the action, you're going to get TI from me.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is that probably you would want to incentivize the hubs more than.
Okay, so that's exactly the kind of question that I'm going to ask. Yes, Shmuel.
Yeah, the multiplication by xi here, since it's 0, 1, this means that if I don't take the action, I get 0, which means there are no externality. I'm thinking of your example
you are only
of
being
the
affected.
corona.
Yes, it's a
What?
no, it's a some sort of normalization. It wouldn't have mattered if I would have put minus in case you don't take the action. Okay, so I'm only counting those people who take the action. The reason for this is sometimes you know people who take action, right? You not very often you don't know those who didn't take the action, but you know those who took the action. Okay?
No. If I don't take the action, it does matter how many did take it, because it may affect me. Therefore, my payoff does not depend only on the fact that I don't take the action. There are externalities here.
But this is reflected on you mean that it's reflected in the number of people that you have as friends. This is why I have this FDI.
Think of this as the difference. Think of this as a difference between taking action 1 and taking action 0. This expression is the difference between payoff in action 1 and payoff in action 0.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that FDI is which I interpret as a dilution function, is going to be decreasing. So the more people I have, fix the number of people who take the action. The more people I have, the more I have to dilute it. Okay. Here is an example, a simple example.
So Eyal, for example, FDI could be 1 over DI.
I will give this example in a minute.
That
I will
exactly
give this
that
special
you are
example.
averaging.
These special cases will come in a minute.
But
So
that's a good example to keep in mind, right? It's a good example to have in mind of what you mean by that.
Yes.
And that
so it will come soon.
Average action of your friends.
Yes. So this is a case where I have 3 friends and only one makes the action. This is a case that I have 2 friends and only one makes the action. So the influence of this guy in B is going to be greater than the influence of the guy in A, because there are here 2 people who don't take the action. However, I'm not saying anything about the comparison of B and C. Okay, so these are examples, and I'm going to come in a minute to the special cases that Sergio mentioned. There's more than one, but let me first describe the game. Okay, so given the social network and the influence mechanism, which is a vector that specifies how much I'm paying to each agent, we have a game. In this game, there are only 2 actions for each person, as to decide whether to take the action or no. And I'm going to say that this transfer vector is incentive inducing if in this game of choosing whether to take the action or not, there is a unique equilibrium, and this equilibrium is the one in which everybody takes the action. Okay, that's what the principal wants to achieve. He wants to get everybody doing the action. I'm going to say that T is optimal if, on top of being incentive inducing, it's also the cheapest among all mechanisms that induce everybody to act in a unique equilibrium. Okay, any questions?
Because it has a summation of Ti, yes?
Yes.
Cheapest in terms of the sum, not domination.
In terms of the sum. Okay, so this is what I'm going to look for as my first objective. Okay, I'm going to skip this, but I'm going to give you this example, one special case of FDI, which is if you take alpha to be 0, this is exactly what Sergio said. It's just the average of the number of individuals that take the action. If you allow alpha to be positive, then you give each individual more influence. Okay, if alpha goes to infinity, okay, then you back to just the sum of actions that people take. Of course, in this case, so that it's not trivial, you have C to be also very large. Okay, So as alpha ranges between 0 and infinity, you get both the average and the sum as the utility or the social, the influence utility of on this player. Okay, so that's what I said. Let's use this as an example. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to construct the optimal mechanism for you, and I'm going to test this optimal mechanism for these 3 networks. Okay.
Wait,
then I'm going to ask which of the networks is better.
Eyal, sorry. Alpha goes to infinity essentially says you can implement anything with t equals 0.
No, but think of it. If C is very high.
Epsilon with t equals epsilon.
Sorry.
Things are not normalized right. You are exploding one term there.
I know. But I said the more you increase alpha, of course you'll have to increase C correspondingly. You will give more influence to each individual. Okay, that's the basic. Okay, so now let's start building the optimal network. Sorry, the optimal mechanism for this network. This network is basically the complete graph. Okay, and I'll tell you how I'm going to buy. I have to pay one of these agents at least C to make sure that there isn't an equilibrium in which none of them take the action. Okay? If I pay everybody less than C, there will be an equilibrium in which none of them takes the action. And that's a bad equilibrium. I want to screen out this equilibrium. So at least one of them needs to be compensated to the extent that he wants to take the action, even if he believes that nobody else will take the action. Okay? So how much do I pay him? I pay him C. Now, after paying him C, let's move to player 2. Player 2 now enjoys the fact that one has already taken the action. And to make him take the action, I can extract the social utility that he gains from player 1. How much this social utility worth is alpha? It worth alpha plus 1/3. Okay, so I can extract alpha plus 1/3 from the C. I have to pay him C and extract alpha plus 1/3. Once I paid him, or once he is incentivized, I'm going to move to 3. And now 3 is connected both to 1 and 2. And he enjoys the fact that these 2 agents are taking the action. And I can extract from him the utility, the social utility he gains from the fact that they are taking the action. Okay? Finally, for player 4, I'm going to be able to extract the social utility for gets from the fact that the 3 others are taking the action. So that's eventually what I'm going to pay each of them. I'm going to pay C first to everyone, then extract 1/3 plus alpha from the first one, then 2/3 plus 2 alpha from the second one, and 1 plus 3 alpha from the third one. The total is going to be the amount that is written here, 4C minus 6 alpha minus 2. Okay?
Is there any problem to work with alpha? Same question. Sorry. Can I work with alpha equals 0, or then I always get the 0, 0?
You can work. I'm going to show what happens when alpha varies between 0 to something. But if you want, you can think about alpha being 0.
I'm asking, is alpha equals 0 problematic? Because it always allows us it. No
problem. So now let's look at this figure. This network is different in the sense that, after what happens? Okay. After I incentivize 1, I get 2 to be paid the same as before because he enjoys the fact that 1 is getting, is doing the action. Then I'm going to do 3. But now when I'm doing 4, it's going to be different. Why? Because before, 4 was connected to the 3 agent, and he could extract utility from the fact that these 3 agents are already participating. Now, 4 is only connected to 2 of them, okay? And his utility from the fact that 3 is doing the action, his extra utility is 0. So the principal will not be able to extract anything from him in terms of 3 doing the action. Only these 2, okay? How much he would be able to extract? This amount. Don't worry, don't compare it to what we had before, okay? Finally, I'm going to look at the star. This is a star. And I'm going to start with 1. Anybody wants to say why I have to start with 1 and not with 2 or 3 or 4? This is what Yuval was trying to hinge, okay? Why should I be starting with 1?
Because you get the maximal externality, of course.
Because I get the maximal externality, right? Once I incentivize him, okay, I can extract from the 3 others the utility of the fact that he is already taking the action. Okay? Okay? So what we are going to see here, so it's going to be C here. C, I'm going to extract 1 plus alpha from here. I'm going to extract 1 plus alpha from here and 1 plus alpha from here. Okay, and this is the total that I'm going to pay them. It's 4C minus the extraction of the social utility. What turns out to be the case is that for alpha greater than 1/3, okay, the complete graph is the optimal. For alpha smaller than 1/3, the star is the optimal, okay? So the optimal structure depends on alpha, okay? Depends on the structure of the social utility function. But interestingly, if I put down all the 6 possible graphs up to symmetry, okay, I showed you that for this particular D function, only this network, the left top network and the right top network are optimal. I can never get these other 4 networks that are not in yellow as optimal. Okay, so this already says something on the structure of the optimal networks. Okay, why I cannot get these other networks as optimal, I'm going to expand later. Okay, but now let's move to a different type of utility function, which is displayed here. And I won't get into how it is computed, but I just tell you the story that characterizes this utility function. And the story is very simple. Think of yourself as going out of the lockdown and you, sorry, yes?
Can you repeat what do you mean by optimal network?
A network is optimal. A network is optimal if it induces all agents. If the cost of inducing all agents to take the action is minimal.
Summation of Ti is minimal, subject to the constraint that the unique
Summation
equilibrium
of Ti has to be minimized. Okay, Ilan? Ilan?
Yeah, so for each networks, for a given network, you can think about all the schemes to incentivize the agent to take the action.
Yes, I'm looking at
for
the
each
best
network,
one.
You can focus on the optimal.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm looking
But
at the
now you're optimizing. What confusing me, you're not optimizing about the incentive schemes. You're optimizing on the networks. On
I'm doing both things. I'm doing both things. For each network, I'm optimizing the mechanism with respect to this network. Okay. So for each network, I have an optimal mechanism. Now I compare all these network and ask, what is the cost of the optimal mechanism in network 1? What is the optimal cost in network 2? What is the optimal cost in network 3? And I'm asking myself, what are the network in which the optimal cost is minimized?
So you compare all the networks given the number of nodes?
The number of nodes is given. The number of nodes is
given.
You
just
the structure, the links.
Graph. So you said the complete graph or the star network achieves the same. You can pay the total the same, which is like the lesson you would pay for any other network or agent.
They do not achieve the same. In some cases, one is optimal, other cases, the other is optimal. They do not achieve the same.
So I'm lost.
No. For fixed alpha, in my example.
Go back one slide. Go back one slide to help me.
Yes. So fixed alpha, Ilan. Okay.
Okay.
So this is where is this is the social utility function. Okay.
Fine.
Fixed alpha. Okay. Now you have a well-defined function, utility function, social utility function. Now compute for each graph, okay? Compute for each graph the optimal mechanism, okay? Ask yourself, which is the graph for which the optimal mechanism is the cheapest? The answer to this is that for small alpha, it's going to be this, the complete graph.
Okay. And the star is for, okay, got it.
And the star is for high alpha.
Okay.
But there exists no alpha, that's the point here. There exists no alpha in which, for instance, this square below is an optimal graph. Yes, Sergio.
Show him one slide before that, number 20 only.
No, but I got it.
Okay, he got it. Now, what's this story? Think about yourself walking in the street after the lockdown, and you meet randomly friends, okay? And you meet randomly K friends. And now I'm going to ask. So sometimes you meet different friends. Sometimes you meet the same friend twice. Okay. Now suppose that your utility is just the expected number of distinct friends that you meet that take the action. If you meet the same person twice, you already know that he's taken the action. You are not influenced twice by this person. Okay? So this is a very natural utility function, which is the expected
that assumes perfect
number.
Recall.
Sorry?
Assumes perfect recall, that you remember whom you met.
Recall. Just the expected number of distinct friends that took the action. Okay? Turns out, no matter what K is, there is only one optimal graph here. Oh, sorry, this is for K equal 2. There is only one optimal graph here. And this is this graph. Neither the star nor the complete. Okay? So that already tells us there's something in here in terms of the structure that is going to be optimal. Okay? Now, if we take the union of these two functions, then these are the three networks that arise as optimal for some utility function. The top ones, the bottom ones never arise as optimal. If you can already see why, that would be impressive. Okay? Why none of these could be optimal, and all of these could be optimal. Not all of them are optimal for the same function, but at least one of them will arise as optimal for some utility, some social utility function.
Yeah,
okay? I'll let you look at it. Yes, Shmuel.
Can you please go back? I don't quite, and tell me how how this is the expected number of different friends that you meet? Show me.
So you
Show me
have
that.
to, you have to, it's a little bit of probabilistic reasoning.
Yeah,
What,
I mean,
your probability of seeing somebody among your friends who took the action. So think about Mr. Alpha, who took
yes,
the action. The probability of seeing Mr. Alpha
yes.
is 1
Not
over
alpha,
D.
anything but alpha.
Okay,
Anything but alpha.
Sergio took the action. The probability of seeing Sergio
Yeah,
is
it's
1 over
D.
D.
Yeah.
Okay, the probability of not seeing Sergio in one encounter is 1 over 1 minus D. The probability of not seeing Sergio in any of these K encounters is 1 minus 1
Yeah.
over D to the power
That's
K.
what I'm missing. What is the role of K in this story? I can see it
The
as a
number of
parameter.
people, the number of encounters that you have with your friends.
Sample size.
Oh, okay.
Sample size.
Okay, the sample size of the friends I
K.
meet in
Yes.
the street. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so keep in mind these pictures, okay? Okay. So now I'm going,
Okay.
these are all examples. So now I'm going to generalize this example and come up with a more general result. And I'm going to start with a notion of tight mechanism. A mechanism is tight if there exists no other mechanism such that reducing the reward or reducing the transfer for one of the agent will allow everybody to have to make the action in a unique equilibrium. Okay. Okay.
Can you show the previous slide again? Just sorry, Eyal. Can you show the previous slide with the 3 graphs? Okay. So you got those are the 3 graphs. Okay.
You do screenshot of this, and I know you will go out of the lecture to find out the answer to my question. So I won't let you look at it for too long. Okay, so now I'm going to explain you how I build the optimal mechanism. So I already convinced you that somebody has to get just the C without extracting anything. Otherwise, we have another equilibrium, okay, in which nobody takes the action, okay? Now, I'm going to, the way the optimal mechanism looks, okay, is in the following way. I'm going to construct an order of the players, okay? Then think of this order as a hierarchy of importance. And the hierarchy of importance means that you transfer a lot of externalities to other, okay? So the top in this order is going to be somebody from whom I'm not going to extract anything. I need to have somebody like that. The second party in the order is going to be somebody from which I'm going to extract only the benefits that he gains from the fact that the first one took the action. Okay? From the third one, I'm going to extract the benefits that the third one has from the fact that the two first took the action. Okay? So this is how I'm going to attribute payoffs to each of the agents in the order, depending on the order. And of course, it depends also on the graph, because it depends on the number of links that each agent has. Okay, it's easy to see. Okay, that's not really an issue to see that if I design the payoffs, the transfer in this manner, I'm going to get a tight mechanism. A tight mechanism, namely, if I'm going to just reduce the cost of one of them, okay, sorry, just reduce the transfer to one of them, there will not be a unique equilibrium in which all of them do the action, okay? If I don't reduce the transfer, then I have a unique equilibrium. Why do I have a unique equilibrium? By means of iterative elimination of strictly dominated strategy, okay? If I pay the first one C without extracting anything, he has a dominant strategy. If I extract from the second the benefit that he has, that he gains from the fact that the first one is acting, then given that the first one has a dominant strategy, he also has a dominant strategy, and so forth and so on. But if I'm just reducing to one of them, even slightly, the transfer, there is not going to be any, there is not going to be uniqueness. There might still be an equilibrium in which all of them exert all of them are taking the action, but not a unique equilibrium. Okay? I'm going now to convince you that this permutation must be non-increasing. What's non-increasing? Non-increasing in what? In the degree. Okay? So that people who have more links should be served first. People who have more links should be like here. As Sergio said before, I have to start with 2, because by incentivizing 2, I get these 3 others to have the benefits of the fact that 2 has already taken the action, and I can extract these benefits from them. Okay? So the more I'm
second one is not a permutation, but never mind.
Sorry?
The second one is not a permutation.
The second one should be 2 here. That's why I have this note. You see at the note, it says, oh, sorry. Okay? You see it says 2 here. Okay? So here in this graph, there are
saved
2
by the bubble. Saved by the bubble.
Sorry?
Saved by the bubble.
Okay. There are 2 non-increasing permutations. One is, in both of them, 2 is the first. In one of them, 1 comes second, and in the other one, 4 comes seconds. And in both of them, 3 is the last, because 3 has only 1 link. 1 and 4 have 2 links. 1 and 4 have 3 links, and 1 and 4 have 2 links each, and 2 has 3 links. Okay, so there are 2, and now we have a proposition that says an influence mechanism T is optimal if and only if there exists non-increasing permutation pi, such that for all agents, the transfer is going to be first pay this agent CI, his CI, and then extract from this agent his social benefit from all those people who appear before him in the non-increasing order. Okay, so that characterizes the optimal mechanism, and it says to start with that those people who have lots of links in the network are benefiting from it. Okay, because they induce positive externalities on others, and therefore they are coming earlier in the order. And if they come earlier in the order, that means that the principal will extract less from them. Okay? So it's good to be centralized in a network from the point of view of what you're getting if somebody wants to utilize the network to influence people to act. We started at 2, so this is 3/4. It's a good time, I think, to do 5 minutes break. Okay? So we'll take 5 minutes break now.
אייל, מתי שנוח לך? אני חושב שהחמש דקות.
אוקיי, עכשיו אני רק רואה שאני צריך לעשות sharing מחדש, נכון?
כן, השארינג נעלם.
איפה? אוקיי, קונטרול L. Okay, let me say something about
No,
now
Sipa.
what we're
Control
going to do.
L. Control L.
This is Control L already, not?
No.
Oh, no, you're right. Control L.
You are not in the right screen.
Right. So now that we dealt with the issue of the optimal mechanism given a fixed network, we're going to move to the issue of what are the optimal mechanisms, the optimal networks from the point of view of the principle. And I'll say a few words about why I think it's an important question, especially in the context of social digital social networks. There is a lot of debating on the degree that, let's say, Facebook or Twitter management, namely the firm itself, can influence our payoff. Okay, the firm itself very often would like to have a lot of influence on us because, for instance, one reason for that is that it increased the revenue that it gets on advertising. Okay? The more influential the advertising are going to be, the more revenue, the price of advertising is going to be higher, and the company will make more money. Okay. The question is whether the firm, namely Facebook, for instance, can affect the level of social influence that is generating by the network through changing the structure of the network. And I think that to a certain extent, or even to a large extent, I know Facebook better than the other ones, but I know that Facebook can do it quite easily and potentially is doing it. There are two tools that Facebook can affect or change the structure of my network. We tend to think, I'm sending a friend request, either it accepted or not accepted. What does Facebook have to do with the structure of my own network? But not. Facebook is in charge on sending you, for instance, suggestions for requests. It also can decide, and it does it very aggressively, decide what kind of post you see on your own timeline, okay? And it can easily break a link between two individuals, severe link between two individuals, by means of not sending any information or any post that I has put on his timeline, not having it on player J timeline, and vice versa. So de facto, as far as influence is concerned, these two individuals don't have link. They can still send messages, but this is a very rare activity on Facebook. Okay, most of the information that we extract as users of Facebook are through posts that other people put. Okay? Now the question is, from the point of view of Facebook, how should my network look like? In order, or how should the network in general look like in a way, given that there is a fixed number of users, so the number of users is not changing, what sort of suggestion and what sort of design of the timeline of individual should take place in order to maximize the influence that Facebook has over our decisions. Okay, so that's the purpose. Okay, so let me start by making a very simple insight first. Think about a given network, okay? And suppose there are two agents, and if this network, if I calculated the optimal mechanism for this network, that I already figured out what is the non-increasing order. So this network comes with an order where player one is the one who has the highest number of links, player two is the second highest number of links, and so forth. So look at this order and take two individuals, I and J, that don't have a link. Suppose that I entertain the idea of introducing a link. I first want to convince you that putting as many links as possible is not going necessarily to be the optimal thing for Facebook, right? Why that? Because each additional link has a cost and a benefit, okay? If I put a link between I and J and I precede J, okay, then the benefit is that I influences J, and I can extract this influence of I of J from J, okay? But as far as I is concerned, when I construct the mechanism, I has to take into account that J is not making the action, okay? Because I'm building the mechanism based on iterative elimination of dominated strategy, okay? So now if I introduce a link, introduce J to be a friend of I, okay, and he doesn't take the action, he only dilutes the social effect from I, okay? So this is a negative incentive to have a link between I and J, where J doesn't take the action, dilutes the incentives of I in taking the action. If it dilutes the incentive of I to take the action, then I have to pay I more to get him to do the action. Okay, is this basic
so
insight
what you
clear?
are saying, Eyal, what you are saying is that adding the link between I and J means that DI has increased by 1.
Exactly.
Which means that
you have more dilution.
The effect, that's a dilution effect.
Yes.
And that's why you have to pay him more.
Yes.
It's true that J you'll have to pay less because now
Yeah.
he has the benefit of I being
Yeah.
connected, and now you have to balance those two things.
Yeah. Now, so this is one thing to show you why it's not trivial, but it's much beyond this. This is, by the way, we were struggling a lot of time. We were tortured to get it done correctly with a very very precise proof. And the reason is not only that. The reason is that what we have to do here is to compare networks. So suppose you take a network and you ask yourself, can this network be optimal? Suppose it's not complete. So you start asking questions. Okay, would I benefit as a principal by introducing the link between I and J? Okay, suppose that you find out that if you introduce a link between I and J, you are worse off. That still doesn't say that there should not be a link between I and J, because it might be the case that if you remove another link from somewhere else, then a link between I and J will be useful, and maybe a link between I and J does appear in the optimal mechanism. Okay, so it's very delicate. Okay, so let me introduce three conditions that we need, and and I think these are relatively benign. It's at least two of them are very intuitive, okay? And we need to get the general results, okay? The first condition says that if you introduce another friend of an agent, and this friend is taking the action, okay, it's only going to increase the incentive of the player to take the action, okay? As I said before, as Sergio said, if you introduce a player, you add a friend that doesn't take the action, then it increases the dilution, okay? But if you introduce a friend that does take the action, can influence me, then although the dilution is growing, I have another person who takes the action, the overall effect is going to grow, okay? So what it says, it's so intuitive that I cannot imagine a situation in which this won't be the case, okay? But what it says formally is that f of m plus 1, so I'm increasing the number by 1. So what do I have here? So adding an active neighbor never decreases agent incentive to act. For each m greater than 1 and k smaller than m, this is the total effect, social effect, when I introduce another agent that takes the action. And this is the total effect before I introduce another friend that takes the action, okay? So
M is the number of friends, of neighbors?
M is the number of friends that an agent currently has, okay?
And K?
And K are those who take the action.
Okay, thank you.
So I increased M by 1, and I increased K by 1, and the total influence increased relative to the case when I did not have this friend at all. Okay? The second condition...
You only care about K equals 1.
Sorry?
You only care about K equals 1. The toughest inequality is for K equals 1 or 0. 1, I mean. K equals 1 gives you all the other inequalities follow.
Yes, but yeah, but
talk about K equals 1, much easier. Why do you have to talk about all K? K equals 1 is much easier.
It's such a benign condition. I don't mind to impose
you complicate
exogenously on
talk
all
about K equals 1, much simpler. Try to explain, yes.
Okay, yeah.
But it says that Fm plus 1 over Fm is greater.
I can have it only for.
Sorry, no, sorry, I'm wrong. Sorry, K equals M is the toughest. Sorry, I was wrong. K equals M is the binding constraint, not K equals 1. So it says Fm plus 1 over Fm is greater or equal than M over M plus 1.
In matter of fact, you don't know which is the toughest.
Of course I know. The right-hand side is monotonic in K, and the highest one is for K equals M. I mean, divide by Fm and put on the right-hand side is K over K plus 1.
Okay.
This is highest for K equals M.
So you can impose it only on a single
K
value.
equals M. K equals M.
Equal M. Okay. The second condition is convexity, and it says that if I'm introducing another friend that doesn't take the action, the more friends I already have, the less the extra dilution is going to be. Let me explain it more simply. So suppose that I'm moving. There is one player. Okay, there is one player. Or let's assume that I start with 3 players. 2 of which are doing the action and 1 which doesn't do the action. Okay? If I introduce another friend that doesn't do the action, it's going to be now 2 against 2. Okay? Compare it to a case where we have 100 friends, 2 are doing the action, and you add another friend to the 100 that doesn't do the action, okay? So you get a dilution, but there are already 100 people who don't do the action. Okay, the influence of the 101 cannot be so great. That's the interpretation of this condition. Okay, the marginal dilution is declining. Okay, and the third one is a strengthening of the second. I'm calling it strong convexity. Not only we need convexity, but we need that it grows sufficiently fast, and it depends on n, on the number of players in the network. Okay. Note this factor, this term. Sorry, if this term, if n goes to infinity, then it's simply convexity. But for small n, I need this convexity condition to be sharper. Okay. Okay, so this is basically the explanation, the intuition of these two conditions. And now
that's why you need alpha bigger than 0. That implies alpha bigger than 0 in your basic example.
Alpha, as I said, alpha equal to 0 is one possibility. I'm not.
Does that satisfy all your assumptions?
That satisfy all my assumptions.
Oh, okay.
As well as the other example that I had with the K encounters, with the sampling. They satisfy all these assumptions. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about galaxies. We know what a star is. Look at this network, and if you eliminate these two nodes, the two central orange nodes, you have a star. What is a star? In a star, you have a node that is connected to all other players that I'm going to call a periphery. Okay, so you have one star and you have a periphery, and the star is connected to the periphery, and there are no link within the periphery. This is a star. Okay, what is a galaxy? A galaxy is a collection of stars to a certain extent. Okay, and it basically formally means that it's a network that partitions the set of nodes to two subsets. Okay, one which I'm going to call stars, and one that I'm going to call periphery. And the properties of these two sets are the following. Stars are connected between themselves, and each star is also connected with each periphery node. Okay? Periphery nodes are connected to stars, but they are not connected between themselves. Okay? There are other ways to describe this structure. We will look at the literature to see whether these type of architectures already have a name. We found things that are similar, but not exactly this. Okay? So we decided to give it our own name, which is a galaxy. I think it's a good name because it says you have multiple
multiple star. So it's you take a star network, you take multiple star networks.
Yes.
Okay, and you take the full graph between the stars. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Right?
So this figure is confusing, but the nicer way to think about it in a three-dimensional space is think about these three stars lying above the periphery. Okay, and think about the periphery as being a cycle on the floor, and they are lying above the floor. Okay, and each of the stars is sending links to the other stars and to all the periphery nodes. Okay, okay, when described like this, it immediately tells you that there is a symmetry between these three stars, and there's also a symmetry between all the periphery players. Okay? Let's go back to the famous picture here. This is a galaxy because it's a star. Every star is a galaxy, and a complete graph is also a galaxy where you don't have periphery, and basically all nodes are stars. This is also a galaxy. There are 2 stars and 2 periphery. Okay? It satisfies the condition of a galaxy. These 3 are not stars. Okay? This is not star. You would think that these might, you know, for 1 and 2 to be stars here. Do you see my pointer? Can you see the where I'm pointing in?
Yes, we can see it.
So these are not stars. Why? Because this guy, for instance, is not connected to 4. To be a star, you have to be connected to all the periphery. This is not a star because there is a symmetry here. So either all of them are stars or all of them periphery. You can't have all of them periphery. By the way, I'm looking only at connected graph, because if the graph is not connected, this is not interesting. You simply analyze each component separately. Okay, so this is not a star. This is not a galaxy. This is not a galaxy either. The only possible candidate is 2 to be a star. But 1 and 4 cannot be a star because they are not connected to 3. So there must be periphery. But if they are periphery, they can't have a link between themselves. Okay? Because galaxy imposes that periphery has to remain unconnected. Okay? So can you already conjecture the result? What are the optimal architectures? Okay, so in these examples were the 3 possible optimal architecture, and indeed we have a general results under these 3 conditions that says
it must be a galaxy.
It must be a galaxy, yes, it must be a galaxy. Where is it? Theorem. Suppose we have these 2 assumptions of P and SC hold, then an optimal network must be a galaxy. Which means that this is the network that is easiest to manipulate. Okay. Let me perhaps give you one hint about how it looks. And
Eyal, so
yes.
what it says, it's a hierarchical structure of level 2, a full graph, and then everything is connected to that full graph in the second layer.
A full graph?
There is a full graph among the stars. That's level 1. Yes. And then level 2 are all the what you call periphery, which are connected to all the stars. That's it.
This is a galaxy.
I know. No, I'm just saying. Now, is there any intuition why you only go 2 levels? I mean, I could imagine, I mean, why not 3 levels? Which means after I have this galaxy, then I have another layer which are connected to all the previous ones.
Okay, but maybe what you're referring to is something that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Tell me if that's the structure you're referring to.
No, some intuition. Why do I stop at 2 levels? That's what I don't see.
I will. I'm not sure I can answer this one, but I'll explain. I'll explain the basic intuition in this structure.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay.
Uncharacteristically, I'll wait.
But no, I'm explaining it now. As we said, if we look at the one, we talked about the non-increasing order. So look at the first player in the non-increasing order. Okay. Clearly, this player has to be connected with everybody else. Why? Because there's only benefit. Remember that I told you the benefits and the cost? You are not extracting, you won't be extracting any utility, social utility from this guy. And everybody to whom he connects will benefit from the fact that he is already known to make the action. And you as a principal will be able to extract the social utility from all these players, right? So is it clear that the first one in the order must be connected to all the other players? Okay, now let's look at the second one. The second one, you already have some cost. Again, if there is lots of people down the road, if he is second among 200, then it makes sense to connect him. If you connect him to somebody below him in the ranking, you have to connect him to everybody below him in the ranking. Because the only concern that might occur is that, let me think, the first player being connected, so I didn't say this exactly correctly. What I said is that, think about player one, let me say it again. Think again about player 1 and 2. If one is connected to 2, a link between 1 and 2 has cost and benefits. First of all, the cost, oh, no, I said it correctly. Sorry, I said it correctly, okay? The first one has to be connected to everybody else. The second one, when he connects to 3, there's already cost and benefit. The benefit is the 3 is influenced by the fact that I is connected to him because I has already made the action, and I can extract as a principal the utility from 3. But it's going to make it more expensive for me to incentivize 2, because 2 is now connected with 3, and when 2 is connected with 3, 3 is diluting 2, which forces me as a principal to pay 2 more. Okay, so as I move downward, the cost increases and the benefit reduces. Okay, so this is why I start. Everyone that is admitted as being a star is connecting to everybody else. The benefit goes down from one stage to another until somebody where I'm saying, no, it doesn't pay anymore to connecting with anybody. And this person downward from the periphery. So this is already giving you an explanation, Sergio, why you have 2 levels.
No, I still don't see why I can't have after I finish the second level, why I can't have a third level.
Because as I said, all these stars, if you admitted somebody to have links with somebody below him, you should link him also to everybody else, which is downward.
Can I?
Yes.
Can I try? So I think, Sergio, maybe I got it wrong, but you have to have at least one link, right? And otherwise, that node is not connected.
Okay.
If it is connected, then you have to decide whether you want to pay for more. But it's like if you add another one, you already like you want to maximize the activation on all the other nodes.
Okay.
Right. So it's like if I already paid, I want to maximize the gain I get all over all the network. And
exactly.
Not
That's
only,
what I said. That's the intuition I was saying before. If you are Okay, maybe we'll return to it, but here is a more general structure, which we call K-cluster galaxy. And in a K-cluster galaxy, we have the following property. We have a clique. A clique is a subset which is in which the graph is complete on the subset, and K-independent sets C1 and CK, such that nodes in each of these set 1 to K are only between those players and people outside the set. But within these sets, there are no links. Okay? So one alternative way to describe these K-cluster galaxies is to start with a galaxy. Here, this is a galaxy. Let's go to this galaxy. And then look at the periphery and form some partition. Let's say these three right-hand side nodes, make them a set, and have, in addition to the links that are already here, make sure that they are also connected to people outside these three node set, okay? Then look at these two. This is another set, and then in these two. So you partition basically the set of periphery. How do you get to a cluster, to a galaxy cluster from a galaxy? You partition the periphery, and each component of the periphery there are no links within this component, but there are links between this every node in this component and everybody else in the periphery, and everybody else in the graph. But we know that there are already links with the stars.
So that's let me say it simpler. Let me say you take the complete graph and erase all the links that are within the same CI.
You take the complete graph
on all the nodes, and
you erase
each
all
CI,
the nodes.
you erase so there is a C0 essentially. Sorry.
No, but you have to make sure that you don't erase the links within the stars. The stars have to have links between themselves.
Again, see here, you take a full graph, you partition into C0, C1 up to Cn, or Ck, okay? C0, you don't, it's a partition into these joint sets of nodes. C0 you don't touch. For each CI, for I greater equal 1, you erase all the links inside the set CI.
I think you're right.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Much simpler way to describe.
Yeah. So why do I need this structure? Why do I need this structure? If you don't like condition strong convexity, then we can only guarantee that the optimal graphs are of the form of K-cluster galaxy. Okay. Embarrassingly enough, we can't have a counter example. We can show that if you give up the strong convexity, you get a K-cluster galaxy. If you have the strong convexity, you have a galaxy. But whether we need a strong convexity to get a galaxy or not, we haven't managed to resolve it. Let's see. Okay. How much time do I still have? Ilan?
I think like 7, 8 minutes.
So the rest I'm going to say without graphs or with very little. So this was Facebook. This was Facebook. What's the difference between Facebook and Twitter? Anybody want to guess?
Directionality.
Sorry?
Trump uses one, but not the other.
Yes, that's correct. But there's another very distinctive difference, which is Facebook is a non-directed graph, and Twitter is a directed graph. In Facebook, you propose a link, and if the link is formed, then there is a symmetry. You're supposed to get what the other person gets, and he's supposed to get what you put. Okay?
Why can't you say I want to see everything there, but he can't see everything that I have?
You can, but these are.
Again, I'm not a Facebook user, so I have no clue.
This is where if you carefully customize your page, you can do these kind of things. But as a benchmark.
In fact, that's something I did probably 10 years ago, last time I used Facebook. I could see, but I could never be seen. Since then, I don't exist probably, but
okay. There are people who like to be seen, but never see other people. So it's actually, it balances off.
Okay. My counterparts, okay.
But if you think about the benchmark, the benchmark is obviously that you can't in Twitter, you connect to see the information from somebody else, right? You can't force me. You can't force me even at the in the benchmark. You can't force me to see your stuff. Okay, so one should then ask the question: okay, how does this whole story look like when you have directed graph? Okay, so now suppose that you have a directed graph. Now it's a complete but directed. A complete but directed is something like that. Okay, something like that. It turned out that the analysis here is much simpler, and I'll tell you what.
So no bidirectional links, you mean? That's what you mean?
This is one thing. Not only that, but there's more. But let's ask first. Given a graph like this, what is the optimal mechanism? That's the first question. But the optimal mechanism is to construct what is called the order. You start with a guy who is sending links to the most. So this is player one, and you form an order which is consistent with the directions of the graph. Okay, so for instance, this is first. Okay, this is going to be second. This is going to be third, and this is going to be fourth. Okay, so you always have a unique order like this. This is a very basic graph theory result that is easy to prove. That you, in a directed graph, you always have an order which is consistent with the number of link, and it's consistent also with that, with moving from one link to another, from one node to another, and covering all the graph.
You don't allow two-direction links?
Okay, so wait. So so this I allow, a priori I allow, but very soon I'm going to ask what is the optimal graph, and the optimal graph will not have two-side link. In fact, the optimal graph would be a complete graph without cycle. Any complete graph, any acyclic complete graph or tournament, okay? Any tournament will be simply says that it's a directed complete graph when acyclic. Every one of these is optimal. Okay, which I think is interesting, because what it says that in directed graph you never leave two agents without some sort of a link. Okay. And one thing we did, I mean, I wasn't, you know, people like to look at the facts from life and associate them with the results of the paper. So we were curious to look at what it says. Also, is that what it says from the result that Twitter has to be much more dense network than Facebook. It's indeed the case. I'm not sure that that's the reason for it, but this result says yes. I mean, the network has to be much denser when it's a directed graph than when it's a, when it's a directed graph compared with a non-directed graph. So this is one comment. The other comment is that we could actually twist the model, and we talked about player being passive, right? So I'm looking at my friend, okay? And I'm asking how many of my friends are doing this action, and this determines my social influence, and accordingly, I decide whether I take the action or not. You could have a dual model in which each node is active. So the influence is active. What does it mean? It means that it's not that I'm looking at my friends, but my friends come to me and convince me, okay? And the decision is on the side of the active person. And the active person is also diluted because he maybe has only fixed amount of time to discuss with friends, and he cannot, the more friends he has, the less he can convince each player separately, okay? So that's the dilution. The dilution is now coming from the fact that there is some constraint on the number of the time that you are engaging in convincing. And if you are convincing many friends, then each friend will be convinced only by 1 over the number of friends, okay? So this is a dual description of social influence. Turns out that this dual description gives rise to the very same results that we had in our original framework. And this is, I guess, the point where I'll stop and allow you to ask questions. No questions, okay.
Yeah, hi, I have a question.
Show yourself.
Wait,
Maybe I'll now.
I'll do that. Wait.
How do I get to see who is talking?
You will see on the right. Sorry, you will see on the right.
What do I do, Sergio? I mean,
don't you see anything?
Stop share. Yes. Okay, Neta. I don't hear you. You are shut down.
Muted. You are muted.
I had a few comments, but I'll actually talk about your last slide. So in your last slide, you said that the influencers and we're not influencing. Like we're influencing, but we're not
influencing. Yes.
Influence. Yeah. So there's actually a nice work by Watts that they actually show the opposite effect. That does in Watts, I think it's like 2002. That what they show is that what is important in the model is not the influencers, but the hamushpaim, the influencers. Okay. Yeah, and so it's not like you're actively trying to influence someone else, but you're actually like what is important is the number of people that you're actually listening to. So I think your results will be similar as if we have a few friends.
I think they are not concerned about the objective there. I mean, the objective is the same as in my paper, namely in our paper, namely to have an influence, to minimize the cost of influence.
They don't want to minimize the cost of influence, but they want to, I think, if I remember correctly, they just talk about social influencing and like spreading of information.
There is a line of research that is prominent in computer science where you have basically random networks. So the question is to start, you want to spread a rumor, and you start at a certain node, and you let the rumor go, and then people spread it in a certain probability. And the question is, what would be the node in the graph which will allow the rumor to spread the widest, okay? This is a different approach, okay? It's different approach. To some extent, it's not game theoretic. It's an optimization problem. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Just I think you can also look at it just the other way around, not just who is the influencer, but the influencer. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Netta. Anything else? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it was nice seeing you. Just to show you for these scary people how active this place is. And now for some reason they are all locked in their office, but there is an enormous activity here. Here I'm just showing people. פה יש, הרגע לא נמצאת, פה יש חנלה,